August 30th. Hello and welcome. That's today's date, and I am today's caster. My name's F. Joined here by Adonis, and we've got a lot of exciting SPL action for you today to conclude week number 3.
You know, week 3 is no longer free FP week.
I never said that. I was never on that train.
Hindu Man said it was free FP week, and it's the week of almost free FP. So many upsets so far. Some more exciting games, and maybe some more potential upsets. Who knows here? After Justice beat Titan, I have no words. Anything could happen in my book.
Well, after Justice beat Titan, that was pretty interesting. I recall Cog beating...
That one's not as crazy for me.
God, oh, really?
It was an upset. It was an upset.
Crazy on Wednesday during the Esports Weekly
It was
show.
an upset. I'll give you that. It was an upset. But
I know you saw my tweet, by the way. You didn't favorite or retweet, but Ray did.
You're a scumbag. That's why. Tom's like, every week he's got like 3 upsets. He's like, man, this week it's going to be this. This team's going to upset this week. And then like the 1 or 2 times it happens, he's just like, he posts pictures. He hits the Twitter immediately after. He's like, look, I told you so. I don't say I told you so like the 8 other times you're wrong.
Because I wasn't wrong. There's only 3 weeks. We're getting into our games today. And on Europe, we've got Dignitas versus Fnatic and Epsilon versus LC. We'll be starting off with the Dignitas match. Now, this one, straight across the board, it's interesting. A lot of us picked Fnatic. This is sort of the go-to upper card for a lot of people, but don't forget, both of these teams have losing records, 1-3 on the side of Fnatic. So even one of the teams that is considered one of the top in Europe having a little struggle this split.
Here's the thing for me with Fnatic's 1-3. It's twofold. First off, it's 2 weeks in, they faced Epsilon and Titan. So
exactly.
it's understandable. But then you look even further back to the end of the summer split and then the LAN. They're actually 4-8 right now against all top teams, 1 loss even coming from London Conspiracy. So their recent record against the top teams haven't been that good. Mm-hmm. Now they're going against Dignitas, though, who is on a even bigger losing record. Within the past 3 splits, they've been in the spring, summer, and fall for Season 2. They've only won 9 games, I believe.
Sure.
5 of them coming from upcoming stars/Justice.
Yeah, so for this game, I think this game is important for both teams for 2 different reasons. For Fnatic to take on Dignitas, this is the team that they should consider sort of an easier to win than most of their schedule. So this is maybe how this team regains their footing. Whereas Dignitas, they're sitting here 1-7, and they're going to go up against Fnatic, but it's a top team, not perhaps in their best form as of late.
Yes.
So Dignitas wants to look to this game to really be the catalyst for what could be a successful end of the split for them. So as we get into picks and bans, Circuit going to be banned away by Team Dignitas, and no surprise there, the number 2 pick is banned Wukong.
Dignitas going into their second ban. Now, the last time these teams face, Fnatic actually targeted out Frezzo, banning away Ares and Ymir, but with Wukong up, they really can't let that god get through.
Exactly.
Their second pick, they have to lock it down. I do expect, however, in return that we do see either the Ymir or Ares, probably the Ares, because just the snowball potential is fairly high. Ice is taken out by Dignitas for their second pick, taking that away from Zyros.
I mean, that's not really a go-to pick for Zeros. Zeros tends to like sort of more aggressive Poseidons and Janus. Mm-hmm. Isis, very, very popular in the meta right now. So for me, it's not exactly at 0. It's just against what Shadow Nightmare doesn't want to deal with.
It could be baiting so they can get the Janus first pick, though, and ban away the Isis pressure.
Now, that makes a lot more sense. Both Zeros and Shadow Nightmare really like the Janus pick. And, I mean, throw your stats away. Just in general, Janus, a great character, can walk through walls, can put his team through walls, and that's why we'll see Janus be the first pick.
I really like the bait coming out from Dignitas there. They didn't think the Janus ban would come through. They did the research, recognizing that it was going to be Ares or Ymir. Take away that Isis, leaving themselves Janus, and take away, not only give themselves one of their priority mids, but take away the 2 priority mids that Zeros focuses on. In response, though, Thor, no hesitation. That's going to go to Captain Twig, and Twig has been struggling so far in the jungle, and it's almost like him struggling in the LAN at the beginning of the fall split is even worse than when he first transitioned to the role. I felt like his summer split was okay. It was solid. It wasn't the greatest performance for a top team jungler, but at the same time, it worked.
I completely agree. I think what happened, and this is all just speculation, I haven't been able to talk to the guys on Fnatic about this, but really what I feel like happens is Sylvanus being picked up for Badja is I feel like, all right, I transitioned to the jungle, and he plays safe, he plays gods like Thor, and a comfort pick like Arachne, and then as he gets more comfortable in the role. We saw Circuits come out. We saw gods like that,
Yep.
and they just didn't work out for him. He tried to be a little bit more aggressive. Going back to Thor, absolutely love this pick. He can be safe in the jungle as well as be aggressive with those ultimates. I think Thor is the right pick for Captain Twig to lean on right now.
Athena locked in for Dignitas. That's likely to go to the support role, but we have seen many teams play it in a variety of roles, including jungle and solo. And it's going to be Neith locked in. Likely that's the duo lane to be facing up against a Sylvanus. And I do like the Neith pick. It's fairly safe. Actually, it's very safe. And also you have the global presence with World Weaver, able to send that arrow across the map anywhere you want on opponents who you have vision of. And basically the idea is, well, they have a Sylvanus, which is going to completely destroy our support and push. Let's just get one of the strongest pushing hunters for that duo lane, relieve a lot of pressure. New Wall locked in for Fnatic, a rising pick, likely to be going to the mid lane.
New Wall, I mean, you said rising pick. I mean, that is putting it lightly. All of a sudden, I feel like Kiki So Cheeky is always the exception. He's always going to play things.
He'll just play whatever.
He plays what he wants, right? But outside of him, I mean, in the past couple of weeks, we've just seen so much New Wall. Is this a change to items around her? Because she hasn't really had too many changes recently.
A lot of it is, I think it's the later these games are going, people are recognizing the strength of New Wall. When she's full build, when she has 500, 600, 700 magical power into the late game, and then she ults and she's chunking enemy squishies and the targets you really want to lock down early in team fights for at least a quarter to a third of their health, that's a big boon for your team comp.
See, for me, it's what she offers around objectives. She doesn't have a circle of protection or whatnot, but you can't get too close to those minions. So as the Gold Fury or Fire Giant gets low, New Wall releases the minions, and come and try it. You're gonna get stunned and bursted. Chang'e being banned out by Team Dignitas,
completely targeted,
as well as Bellona being banned out by Fnatic. Xbalanque gonna be the hunter we're gonna be seeing in that long lane.
Next pick's coming through from Dignitas. It's going to be Odin. And taking a look at the team comp for Fnatic, there's 3 gods that can't get out of Odin Ring. No matter what they do. Unless they have Blink, they're not getting out of that Odin Ring. New Wall, Xbalanque, and Sylvanus. And even though New Wall does take to the sky with her ultimate, that actually doesn't transverse over player-made objects, so she will be contained in that ring. Last pick coming through, and it's going to be Bastet. So a pretty high-pressure jungler here from about level 5 to level 12 to 13.
I love both of these picks, honestly. Odin is a character that is very, very specific in when he's applicable. And right now is basically it. There's a little bit of healing on the side of Sylvanus. It takes the healer out of Fnatic's hand. We know that Maniac, although all solo laners had to embrace the warrior, coming into it initially at the very beginning of his career, Maniac really enjoyed Afros and Chongas and the healers of the world. So Sun Wukong going to be locked in for Fnatic. This character both has no healing to be shut down by Odin and can get out of the ring.
Picks are going to be completed there, and it looks like a pretty solid comp coming from both teams. I really expect, though, that we're going to see Dignitas try and put the pressure on early. They have the Odin, they have the Bastet, and we can see that. I almost feel like with the Odin pick, they thought that Zeros was potentially not going to be playing the New Wall. I almost feel like they thought Maniac was going to be with New Wall.
Sure.
I figured that, you know, the lockdown with Odin versus New Wall, but it's still a possibility, right? If Variety is rotating early, he's going to be able to trap Zeros in, and there's not much he can do once that Bastet jumps in that ring also.
Badger getting a little poked out by Team Dignitas. Nothing of consequence, though. Both teams have warded the left-hand side of the map to keep an eye on those mid-harpies, and Fnatic have done so a little bit more in their opponent's jungle on the right side as well. So vision advantage goes to Fnatic, but this early on, the vision is less about being safe and more about just having information as to where their opponent is going to be starting and heading.
Looks like no invades coming out from either team. They're going to be playing relatively safe, but like you said, those deep wards by Fnatic, just making sure that Team Dignitas is not going to invade them. They do have a very strong level 2 with Bastet Odin. Maybe not the best level 1, but there's always the potential for invading coming out here.
Dignitas, or rather Fnatic, have always sort of led the charge when it comes to warding and vision. We see this ward in the mid lane so often, just a ward right in the lane in front of the tower. That's something Fnatic has been doing for, I want to say, years now, over a year, going back to Season 1. It's a regular part of all teams' compositions, or all teams' warding now, but originally was unique to this unit.
Very unique. Rotation coming in from Twig. That's going to be mid-Harpies over to Fnatic here. Bastet not going to be able to get there in time. Fnatic also have vision on those left Harpies, though. They put a ward there. They're going to spot out and smell that Dignitas is looking for it. A quick pause coming out from Dignitas. They're going to fix whatever issues they're having. We'll get back into the game here shortly. And this could actually be an interesting fight here. Fnatic put that ward there for two reasons. First off, are you starting there, right? Because they want to know if they're going to start at the mids and then invade their attack speed buff, which we've seen typically. And also, if you don't start there, then we're going to have vision on you coming into right now. The position we're at right now is, do we want to fight you? Can we fight you?
And exactly. It gives the team multiple options by having that information sort of in their catalog. They're able to really decide whether or not, as you said, do they want to fight it or do they want to play it safe? And right now, as Team Dignitas goes for the mid camps, Fnatic has vision on this as well, so no problem. Thor will go right on in, and Captain Twig following the enemy actually gonna harass Shadow Nightmare just a little bit, enough to force out the health pot on that Janus.
Archers are OP though. Captain Twig pulled those archers, unfortunately, and that's going to be a decent amount of poke coming out from Frostiak here. He's not going to be able to commit too hard to this, but a big poke war coming through for both teams.
Bastet's able to poke so well with that jump and then the jump back. As we visit the dual lane real quick, don't expect to see this image too often. The Neith will very quickly be able to outpush the enemy lane on the side of Fnatic. Right now, it's really just a threat that Sylvanus and Xbalanque have as far as kill potential.
Back into the tower. Badger's continuing to put the pressure on. Yeah, it's just so hard to fight into Sylvanus because he also has very high kill potential. If you get a little bit out of position, he's going to root you. And this is especially strong against Athena, where other gods can respond. Geb can knock up Sylvanus. When it comes to Athena, the taunt isn't far enough back. The range isn't there. You have to be too close. And her dash is also a charge up. So she can't immediately get out of that route. She has to charge it up, which is very easily read. And you typically see Sylvanuses immediately respond with the pool and put a lot of pressure onto those supports.
And another notch on the side of Fnatic's dual lane composition is that if you do get the route onto Neith, she will backflip, but the backflip is just as predictable as standing still in that route, whereas other gods like on her or Xbalanque can sort of move with their escapability. The backflip just goes one direction, very easy to read at this level of play, so Neith has to be very, very careful as long as Sylvanus is in the lane. As soon as he leaves, though, Kevin, that Spirit Arrow is going to do work.
Oh yeah, that'll be clearing the wave over that Xbalanque anytime. This could be a huge rotation on left. I mean, look at the positioning. They're so far pushed up on the dual lane, but it looks like Frostiak, even though the dual lane on left is only level 4, didn't want to gank there. He's actually going to be backing and finishing off his boot, so doesn't want to put too much pressure early on, maybe looking more for a mid-game fight.
Just want to give some breathing room, I guess, to their team. I mean, at the end of the day, the Neith is going to be fine. You have the Unravel to keep yourself sustained, so it's not a necessary, alleviate the bleeding type situation, and you just don't want to gamble. With that said, though, Bastet, usually a character that wants to
They were
get
very far
early.
pushed up on left. I feel like Frostiak probably could have taken advantage of it, but I guess probably just trying to play the safe route, looking more for mobility. They also had Janus to ult over to that, too. Dig, though, maybe playing a little bit scared against Fnatic.
Which, as we said, 1-3, one of the fewest games played. A lot of teams, I mean, Dignitas is 1-7. They've played a couple more games than Fnatic thus far, and basically what happens is some teams each week will play twice. Fnatic have yet to reach what we call a double-header weeks, whereas Team Dignitas have obviously gone up against that already.
Twig's setting up for something. You can see him there. They want to take a fight on the left Harpies, and that's what Twig's doing. He's baiting it out. And there, Shadow Nightmare's out of position, blinked by Frezzo. Captain Twig's going to take to the sky, but who's going to fall first? Is it going to be Badger, or is it going to be gank coming in from Twig?
Great knockup from Badger to set up the gank from Twig. Frezzy channeling the ultimate, and Frostiak will get the kill onto Badger. New Wild's going to go in the air and provide some damage onto Frezzy. Not enough, Captain Twig. It's just a matter of time. Unless that charge goes off, which could be trouble.
No, he's going to die to tower? Okay, Zyros. Ooh. Able to get that. That was, so, not able to leave combat there. That was almost a fantastic play from Frezzo. I thought that it had been that long.
As did I, and clearly Frezzo did as well. Just for the fans at home wondering why the hell you saw an Athena walk into the tower. So, I forget the amount of time, but
I believe it's just till you're out of combat, I believe.
so once you get out of combat, if you die to the tower, sure, that's a death for you, and you're going to lose out on the time you get to farm. But the boon is, in that situation, I mean, Athena was guaranteed dead.
Yes.
If she dies to the tower instead of a member of the opposing team, nobody gets gold. The tower doesn't level up.
Yeah,
the tower doesn't get an extra
you get an
point.
assist if you're in the area, but it's not the
Right.
kill amount, which is worth much more.
Exactly. So intelligent thought process coming out from Frezzy, the Guardian on the side of Team Dignitas, but unfortunately for him, not executed exactly perfectly. So Zeros actually gets credit for that kill, and your mid laner for Fnatic will wind up 1-0-0.
That didn't go exactly how I thought. Captain Twig took a while to come down.
Yeah.
A little bit worried about the damage. I think he wanted to secondary initiate, but by that time, Badger was so low that he was going to fall anyway. He might have been able to save him, but Twig electing to take a little bit delay to the fight, maybe looking for more potential kills.
Yeah, Twig actually came out of that. We saw him hiding in the little hole that is the right side mid camps. He actually came around into the lane before going up in the air and ulting. Maybe split between.
Maybe he probably wasn't in range then.
Yeah,
you're right.
exactly.
From where he was at, he probably wasn't in range.
So
I didn't
had to
think
get
of
a
that.
little bit closer. Maniac and Variety as we visit the solo lane for the first time this contest. Nothing really exciting going on here. It's the Wukong versus Odin. Essentially that matchup. Hold that thought. Frostiak in a little bit of trouble. The jump is burned, and he'll get his second kill of the game. The entirety of the kills.
Rens needs lifesteal. No, he's going to live with almost no health. Captain Twig's going to be landing down, though. He's looking for the Rens. Hammers up. The double tap's going to miss it. He's rooted in place, but Berserker's Barrage should pick that up. But now he's caught. He's left alone. Frostiak finds the kill after already taking out Badger in that fight. That's going to be 2-1 in Dignitas' favor, and this is what we expected from Bastet. That rotation, especially onto Sylvanus, who's caught in place so easily by the Cats.
You know, Frostiak has had some problems as of late, but the last game that Frostiak played coming into this match, and this match specifically, I feel like we're looking at a different jungler. He's doing a lot of things that I like to see right on this Bastet, and this could be the turnaround that Team Dignitas needs for their season.
Mid-camps spawning once again, and Frostiak, like you're talking about, he's setting up, trying to take these away from Fnatic, but those minions are going to make sure he cannot get into there. That's another strength also of this new wall. You put clay minions on something where you don't want people to go.
Exactly.
Because if they jump into those minions, you can guarantee that Zeros is going to be ready to explode them, doing damage. Fantastic pull onto Shadow Nightmare, though, here in the mid lane, and that should be it.
Just enough. The portal was caught down. Badger does ultimately get credit for that kill off of the assist of the jungle and mid laners. Fnatic ties up the game 3-3. Gold looking about even as well. Team Dignitas, all three of their kills are on Bastet, Kevin, whereas on Fnatic, they're spread out amongst the team. Which way do you feel bodes better for a team?
You really want to see your jungler get ahead. They're the one putting the pressure on. And it's a Bastet, too. It's not like it's a jungler where they don't put a lot of pressure out early and then they kind of just become a powerhouse late game. It's a Bastet. You want to gank early, you want to gank often, because the later the game goes, while you still have very effective poke with your jump in and your bleed, the Cats become virtually useless in teamfights. Your ultimate is just an ability that's there to body block for half a second until the mage kills them.
What winds up happening later in the game, right now though, Captain Twig landing on top of Rens, who does get out of there, but a different situation for his Guardian. Frezzo will go ahead and fall. Captain Twig getting credit for that. All in all, just a three-man gank in the dual lane.
While they couldn't lock down Rens there, the perfect placement of the wall by Captain Twig allowed them to pick up Frezzo. Not only did he stun out Frezzo, but he also made it to where he would have to walk around the three other members, and then we saw the ult come out from Badger, basically locking him in place.
That's the Fnatic version of the cat block that we might see a little bit later.
Basically.
Frostiak has yet to pull that one off, but we'll keep an eye on that. That's one of the more fun plays in Smite. Essentially what happens is Bastet has the ability, when she unleashes the cats, to completely surround the opponent to prevent them from moving at all. But, you know, one of the things that I like about Bastet is we always talk about gods falling off. I like to think that gods sort of take on a different role, and as the game gets later and later, if there are still structures alive, Kevin, Bastet becomes extremely adept at killing them.
Yeah. She's a very good split pusher, Similar to where you'd see actually better than Loki, right? Because the Cats will tank up that. Speaking of that, though, there's also very strong objective control with Bastet. You can see Fnatic, they're going to notice this and smell it out, but it's not going to be in time. Dignitas, they sneak a Gold Fury right out from under Fnatic's nose.
4 seconds it took Team Dignitas to do that. A lot of that, as you said, was part of the Cats. The Cats very adept at taking out the backdoor protections of the tower, as well as doing a majority of damage and tanking these Gold Fury objectives for you. So with that, Team Dignitas picks up the Gold Fury in the first slight lead of the game, 1,000 gold in favor of Team Dig.
They also had Odin there as well, so even if Fnatic smelled it out a little bit sooner and rotated, he would have been able to lock out a majority of the players outside of Captain Twig or a Blink coming out from Badja.
Now this Odin, Variety and Sun Wukong have been largely in their lane. A little bit of rotation, but nothing of large. There hasn't been a kill because of the ring yet. There hasn't been a Sun Wukong disruption yet. At what point do you really expect these solo laners to really make their mark? Because Odin, largely thought of as an early game god.
He's an early game god in the terms of damage in the support role. Actually, a gig here coming onto the dual lane once again. Frezzo, they're not going to be able to lock him down this time, and Dignitas, they're going to avoid this gank.
Pull is bad for Badja, but here comes the rest of Team Dignitas. This might be a successful counter gank. The Cats are down. Badja suffering a lot of poke, as is Captain Twig. Frostiak's all alone. Doesn't matter. Shadow Nightmare takes out Badja. hi-rez takes out Captain Twig. Zeros finally makes the rotation to take out one. Reels takes out the Hunter. Now it's Frostiak versus Reels. Basics on basics. The dot is going to push Reels into safety. Shadow Nightmare with a very slick portal on the side of that long lane will be able to get out, and all in all, it's a 2-for-2 engagement in this duo lane that Fnatic has been very, very hungry to gank.
Yeah, once again, Twig putting pressure, trying to lock down Frezzo and Renz early. This time, though, it turns a little sour, but Zero's making a fantastic play, and Frezzo actually going back into the fight at low health, which it can work sometimes, but you need to understand the damage output that the enemy has. He dashes in, and he hits the taunt, but he actually baits his team into that fight because Zyros had his minions out and just blew him up, and you just saw the insane burst potential come out there.
Yeah, and so Frostiak was all by himself, and usually when you see a Bastet, that's all well and good because of the way the pounce works. You jump forward, and you can jump back. But Frostiak was actually there sort of, I want to say raw, without the pounce ability. So just stuck in the middle of there. Unfortunately for him, wasn't too hot. Does get out of there, though. Keeps himself deathless, 3-0-2.
Right now, 800 gold lead for Dignitas, though, off the back of that early snuck Gold Fury. Kills pretty even. A lot of ganking and counter ganks coming up from both teams. But Dignitas have been typically the initiators outside of Captain Twig trying to lock down that duo lane. And you can see right now, Dignitas still don't have gold awards on that Gold Fury, meaning we can expect Captain Twig to continue to put the pressure on there if they're going to be pushing up like this.
Yeah, I mean, so normally in the duo lane, we'll see wars come out sort of by the purple buffs of each team to prevent the come from behind gank. When it comes to Thor, Thanatos, I guess you could say Ratatasker as well, although he usually likes to save his ultimate for escape, you have to ward a little bit deeper into the jungle to prevent those semi-globals from really taking you by surprise.
Speaking of taking you by surprise, Twig going from 100 to 40% life real quick. That's the poke potential coming out from both Janus and Bastet, right? If Janus hits his portal, you're guaranteeing an unstable vortex. And the Bastet also has the perfect setup to pounce and toss out that bleed. And that's what you saw, that very big explosive damage marker. No ultimates needed. Twig forced to base after just coming back into lane.
Very standard builds coming out here on both sides of the coin. No real surprises from anybody. Out of the Bastet, you'll see a third item, Transcendence, to maximize her kill potential. Of course, she does scale about 100%. Variety on this Odin wants to be a little bit tanky, but a little bit aggressive. So Runeforge is the choice for him. And checking in with the Hunters as well. The lifesteal option for Xbalanque will be Soul Leader, whereas it looks like Neith will be going the Aussie. So, pretty standard builds coming out from everybody on the battlefield today.
Yeah. And that Soul Eater is going to allow Reels to have a lot of pressure in this lane because the Aura actually does apply to minions as well, which means they're getting protections. Oh. I don't know exactly the numbers on it. Can Spirit Arrow clear when those minions have those protections? I don't know, but the Unravel should finish them off if need be, and it doesn't appear that that Soul Eater is having much effect on Renz. He's not really struggling to clear.
Now the Soul Eater in place of the Devo gloves, or what we would see the Aussie here, it's a little bit less damage, but with the Xbalanque passive allowing him to really get artificial power, should even things up. Right now he's only got 5 in that area, but
it also, the big thing about Soul Eater is the tankiness it brings you. You still get all the stats on Soul Eater are great, just the core stats.
So
in
much
addition,
HP.
you get physical protection and 300 health. Hunters typically sitting very low, and when that's online earlier, that's so much more important. Late game, when people are hitting you for 800-900, it doesn't matter. The 300 health doesn't matter as much. It's kind of, am I going to get 1 shot or am I going to get 2 shot? Which is important, but early on, I mean, it actually gives you a lot of survivability.
That's the mentality of Pythags versus Bancrofts as well. You're not really going to be able to utilize that low HP if your low HP is actually 0. So that's why we see a lot of the mages shifting over to Pythags, because you might as well. A little bit of lonely action here as we approach the 15-minute mark. 5 to 6 are the kills. Team Dignitas slightly in the lead, 600 gold or so. For all intents and purposes, it is a tie, but I point out that they're slightly in the lead because they got it off of a Snuck Gold Fury. Fnatic tried to do the same thing here. This time, Dignitas a little bit more aware than their opponents were last time.
Ren's taking a lot of poke. Captain Twig taking to the air. Fnatic, we're looking for a bait. Who's he going to land on? Is it going to be Ren's? Ren's flip is already done. There's the beads in response. Captain Twig not going to be able to keep up this chase. And Captain Twig actually might fall. One more hit. He runs into Frostyak. He's getting low. Zyros takes out Frezzo. Shadow Nightmare going to the back of the fight, but Reels right now crushing through.
Shadow's looking for Captain Twig in the back line. Zero's still pushing the front. Takes out Ren's. Punishes him for not going home when he probably should have, right after Captain Twig put the hurt on him. Because of that, Fnatic comes up 2-0 in that fight. Keep a lookout on the solo lane. Variety has DC'd, could not pause in the middle of combat. I didn't see a Wukong, so is what it is.
Yeah,
but
he was split pushing. That wasn't a matter of a numbers fight. That was a 4v4. Zero's coming in with a big skill shot, though, pressing 4 and eliminating 2 players at low health in that fight. Fnatic, they're likely to be able to walk away with this Gold Fury uncontested here. And that is Dignitas' 3rd pause, so they will not have any more pauses moving forward. Hopefully they can get their internet issues figured out. We're going to get back in a game, though. This should swing the lead into Fnatic's favor because not only are they going to have Gold Fury, but they also picked up multiple kills.
Yeah, they got 2-4-0 as we come back into it. Reels and Badger sharing the aggro out of the Gold Fury. And with it down, let's take a look at the grass, please. Zayden, 16 on the mark, 1,185 gold in the way of Fnatic. Very slight lead, but a lead nonetheless. Fnatic will take their entire unit onto the right side of the map to provide some help, and Variety has come back, so that's good news for the blue team.
Variety is back in hand here, gonna just be clearing out his wave, and he's fairly even right now, outside of the 400 gold coming from the Gold Fury. That Maniac is up. Maniac electing to actually go the mystical male build here. Captain Twig rotating in this lane, just looking for farm though. Obviously not trying to gank an Odin. Yeah, not the easiest thing to gank. Who has level 2 Spirit Robe and Runeforged Hammer.
Mystical male build pretty much optimal for Sun Wukong here as the tower does go down. That'll be first rubble. Fnatic taking the first tower.
First rubble. Actually, have you said that before?
I have said that once or twice.
I've never heard that before. I like that. I'm gonna steal that.
It's not bad. You're gonna steal that like
the stuff after the stuff?
Yeah.
But I make sure to credit you with stuff after the stuff. I'm like, as F. always says, stuff after the stuff. Rins and Reels poking out here. Reels 1 versus 2, just not scared of Frezzo's taunt there. And you can see Frezzo, he was just trying to bait Reels' beads. Reels knows they don't really have the kill potential. And they also have the Thor there in mid lane that if that dual lane of hi-rez and Frezzo elects to commit, he can guarantee that Twig will be there in under 5 seconds.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, the Neith is viewed as very safe because she can clear the wave easily and heal up off of it with the Unravel, but if she's in the thick of things, safety is not her #1 go. Athena ultimate going to be landed right in the middle lane for the aggression. But Variety will be able to jump out of there safe and sound. No big deal. Shadow Nightmare provides a Janus ultimate just for the presence. A lot of times the Janus ultimate, just the firing of it, is enough to scare away the opponent. Similar to Xbalanque ult, sort of messes with your mind.
I don't know exactly what happened, but that Athena ult actually went to the left, not the mid. I'm not sure why, but Athena ult was used. Maybe it's just a misclick. Trying to bait something out there or expected. Maybe he thought Captain Twig was in the air. I'm gonna go with that. They didn't have vision. They didn't know where Twig was. Thought he was going to go on the left, make sure he can't. Blue buff on the right-hand side being stolen by Captain Twig and Maniac. They're going to walk away with that one. Variety blue buffless now.
At this point in the game, Variety's able to farm a little bit safer since his tower is down. We always talk about how it's a negative for sure to lose that tier 1 because it's 500 gold not on the map and you lose a little bit of map presence, but it becomes a positive in the sense that you can farm safely without really the threat of excitement happening when you don't want it to.
Because, you know, if the enemy solo laner is electing to push into your tier 2, they make themselves very gankable, and you can see a lot of rotations come out. But then there's also high-level mind games where it's like, we want you to come and gank our solo laners, putting pressure on the tier 2, so we could sneak Gold Fury, right?
Exactly.
So there's always high-level mind games as well. Typically, though, you know, Odin's wasn't really being too pressured. Big group up, though, on the right side here by Fnatic 4. Looks like they're just looking for mid-harpies. Mystical Male actually going to pull Fire Giant for Maniac there. Something you always got to be wary of.
Maniac giving chase onto Variety. Not committing with the animals just yet, so didn't quite want to go in full on. Just a little bit of chase and poke from the Mystical Male. Captain Twig's stun off the mark. Mid lane being pushed out by Team Dignitas. As we approach our 20th minute here, Fnatic will make their move to the left-hand side of the map. Nobody really left there as hi-rez makes a counter move, hiding himself behind where Gold Fury is. Variety, mid lane, side lane.
is in trouble.
He'll be able to flip out. He'll be all right.
Twig might be able to catch him, though. There's the stun, but the wall's actually on the wrong side. If that wall was in a different place, we might have seen him commit. He did have reels. He did have Badger ready for him. All actually coming through from Zyros, though, and a great blink by Badger going to keep him alive.
Twig's in the air. He's going to land on somebody. I feel like he's going to get aggressive, and he does, but just barely misses. Frostiak able to jump out, still gets stunned out by the ultimate from Xbalanque. Front side of your fight is Captain Twig. He's going to be slowed, and the taunt is enough to get him off, but he can still throw the hammer. And Frostiak falls to the wayside. 9th kill for Fnatic.
Variety's rotated to this fight, though. Rins versus Reels in the jungle. Rins is going to be the one to fall. Reels secures that kill. Variety's rotation, though. He's trying to lock down Captain Twig. His ultimate's up, but he's not in range. Captain Twig a little bit too fast. There's the Janus.
Great taunt.
It's going to at least slow him down and give Variety that move for speed. He should be able to secure that in the back line. Shadow Nightmare barely escapes that camp. But Captain Twig, with that speed buff, Variety just couldn't catch up to him. And it looks like that's going to be a 2-for-0 in favor of Fnatic, not losing a single player in that engagement.
Shadow Nightmare has better send a birthday card or some sort of greeting card to Frezzo. He was dead to rights. Sylvanus might not have had the damage, but he had a root. He had ways to control him. But a great taunt will get the Sylvanus off. And one more time, Fnatic will take a look at the large Harpy, the Gold Fury. Janus ult will come in, but just a little bit too late. Not enough members of Team Dignitas to make the travel part of that ultimate a real threat. And the Gold Fury will fall down a second time. Kills doubled by Fnatic, and their gold lead is finally something to talk about. 5,000 gold at 21.5 minutes in.
Yeah, that fight was really good for Fnatic. Not only did they kill 2 members, but the other members were forced out solo. You saw Shadow Nightmare there just barely get out. He wasn't going to be able to defend that Gold Fury, and I really like the decision for Captain Twig to dive onto Frostiak. We saw Frostiak trying to train down Reels. Reels' movement speed probably not enough to get himself away, and he's able to keep Reels in that fight, and you even saw the rewards for it later on. Reels able to lock down Rins in the jungle, so good decision-making from Fnatic as a whole, and they got the stuff after the stuff, F-Dot.
Exactly, and I mean, anytime you can force the cat to use beads, Bastet is one of the most slippery characters in the game. Yes, I know Janus is on the board, but Bastet able to jump in. One of the biggest nerfs that this character has ever seen was the ability for her to become crowd-controlled after pouncing. Beads allows her to sort of return to that previous state. Yeah. By Captain Twig forcing out those beads, so many more options were able to be taken.
Can you believe she was CC immune when she jumped?
I like to not think about it.
Man, that was
actually,
nasty.
believe it or not, I was a proponent for it. I really liked that mechanic. I loved it. I felt like it was very core to the idea of jump in, jump out, no matter what. But the left-hand side, I don't know if Reels will be able to jump in or jump out. The ultimate from Frezzo will be good on the left-hand side. Reels suffering a lot of damage from those Neith basic attacks. He's trying to commit because he knows his team is here. He will fall, but Maniac will clean up the Hunter. Maniac is still here alongside the support player, Sylvanus. piloted by Badger. The rest of Team Dignitas have also made their rotation, though, as well. Frostiak gonna fall to the solo laner as well. 2 kills for Maniac in this exchange. Frezzo not quite out. Captain Twig beats for the cooldown. Not gonna land the stun, but he will land the hammer.
Short.
But just barely gets out of the ring is Frezzo.
Frezzo, there's the blink, gonna keep him alive. Maniac not able to catch up. Another clean fight coming out from Fnatic. They did lose Reels, but Dignitas lost 2 in response because they spent so much trying to kill Reels.
And from there, you can take a big lesson. Reels, no way for that character to get out of that problem. So what does he do? He turns and fights. It's inevitable that he's going to die, but what he can do is put a little bit of damage onto the opponent so that when his teammates come in and make the rotation, it's that much easier for those players to be taken down. Renz was eliminated almost as soon as Wukong showed up on the scene, and a large part of that was the basics that Xbalanque was able to deal out before falling.
Dignitas rotating to their mid lane, just trying to find farm across the map where they can. That experience lead really starting to show. Fnatic level 20 across the board outside of the jungle and support. Meanwhile, Variety, the solo laner, still hasn't hit level 20. Frostiak pretty far behind as well, only level 16. Builds coming through. Crits being started up by Reels. Renz having just finished his execution. No, he's started up as well. Taunt actually on Captain Twig at this Fire Giant fight. They're all grouped up though, in Berserker's Barrage taking a good amount of damage.
Captain Twig gets taunted before he used Berserker's Barrage. Badger ultimate is gone right now, but Captain Twig will land on the backside. Variety's gonna lock in Fnatic, but is he locked in there? He's gonna jump out to prevent him from dying, but Captain Twig will take down the mid laner. Frostiak trades it out for the support without the ultimate. Maniac being aggressive as always, up in the air to tank the tower.
Wall.
Jumps right on. Beautiful wall by the jungler. That's going to be a 3x for Captain Twig. Variety falls, gives the credit to Reels X to add on to the passive. And Fnatic looking fantastic in this right-hand lane. Takes out the tower and will most likely find themselves on the Fire
That
Giant.
was the most beautiful Thor wall I think I've ever seen. It is by far up there. Not only stuns 2 players, locks them on the wrong side of it as Fnatic's barreling through, and then he hits the double tap on both players, picking up 2 more for himself, giving Fnatic or Captain Twig the triple kill and a delayed deicide. And then Fnatic just, after taking the tier 1 and the tier 2, they walk straight to Fire Giant, pick that up. Right now, Fnatic in a huge lead. 9,000 gold, 16,000 experience with the Fire Giant buff on them, and then finishing some big items. They're going to come straight through to this mid lane.
You know, as I said going into this match, Thor is always a character that I like to talk about when it comes to newer players. A little bit of poke as Fnatic thinks about pushing down this mid lane, but outnumbered will result in
Reels
retreat.
just got hit by 2 things. He got hit by the portal and unstable vortex.
There's no damage.
And you want to know why? You take a look at the build coming up from Badger, a very early, typically we will see this item picked up on Sylvanus, a Lotus Crown, which basically means when you use a heal, it also gives 20 all protections to the teammates you heal. Wisps already give protections, which means that's a lot of tankiness for his team.
Lotus Crown is one of my favorite items on Sylvanus as the Gold Sphere goes down to Fnatic because it's just activated tankiness. The heal coming out from Sylvanus is a heal over time. It's not exactly quick triage, right? It's usually used sort of after the fight or going into the fight because, oh no, I'm low, give me heal. It's not the same as a hell heal. Right?
It's a siege heal. It's like if we're in the middle of a fight, the heal's not super useful, but after the fight, we can heal up a couple times.
But with that Lotus Crown, all of a sudden, that button becomes very similar to Ares Bolster Defenses, where now you can actually instantaneously help out your teammates with those protections from the Lotus Crown. Love the choice to see it this early on.
Tier 1 going to be taken by Fnatic there in the mid lane. It looks like they're just trying to split the map. You can see the split push coming from Maniac over on the right-hand side. He's just trying to draw Dignitas to this lane because he's going to put pressure on the Phoenix, meaning there's less players to defend that mid-tier 2 tower. Meanwhile, Reels is pushing up the left side lane. This is just very calculated play from Fnatic. They want to split Dignitas up. They don't want to do a full 5v5.
Right.
They just want to pick off the players as they take bad, smaller fights. But actually, Variety blinks in on the mid lane. A counterblink coming through by Badger, and they will force Zero's ult, though.
Taunt's good on Captain Twig, but low damage. Maniac comes from the backside. He's all alone, though. Forced out into the ultimate, but Keynote has forced out Janus to the right-hand side. It's the rest of the team Dignitas here in the mid lane fighting on the Phoenix. There's still a tier 2 tower up, so Fnatic is just looking for blood. Frostiak very low, gets taken down by the Berserker's Barrage. Aegis out the damage coming from Variety. And here comes Badger trying to help out his jungler, jumping in his Variety, but everybody was banished by the Vortex, so nobody takes damage from the Bird Bomb. Reels takes out the Odin. Fnatic with another 2-0, still looking for blood behind tier 2s.
They're just so tanky. It's so hard for Dignitas to kill a single player. After that long engagement, there's not a single player under half. The heals, while not significant, it's like we talked about before, the protections.
Yeah.
And no one on Dignitas can do enough damage.
A big part of that, and I mean, it's really no fault to anyone on Dignitas, as Fnatic did wind up taking out that mid lane tower, and thus the Phoenix. Shadow Nightmare got melted, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, he's
80% of his HP went down in one stun.
He's a mage. There's 4 players around him. It's very hard for him to live through this. Fnatic, they're going to be playing it safe, though. Frostiak just respawning. They're going to secure the last Phoenix, and Renz, there's nowhere for him to go. Maniac's the one to kill steal that one. Frezzo and Frostiak, they're the only 2 remaining. There's 3 Phoenixes down. This Titan, it's already under half. There's nothing for Dignitas to do. Fnatic, after a rough start, able to close the gap on the top teams in Europe.
Fnatic looking very strong in that one. And I mean, a large part of that for me, a large part of the losses early on in the season was Captain Twig, and a large part of this win for me was Captain Twig.
He played a great game.
He played out of his mind. He played what I want to see Thor do. You know, early on, made the ganks over in the dual lane a lot. And then as the game went on, sure, he wound up getting that triple kill. But a lot of it had to do with just the control, the stuns, the walls. Great Thor.
That last wall, that was probably one of the most beautiful plays I've seen. First blood, though, did go to Frostiak, and this was actually a fight that Fnatic was trying to bait. Captain Twig was on the other mid-harpies, and he was just a little bit slow to be able to land on that to try and save Badger and Frostiak. He finds a nice pick in the jungle. They do trade out, though. Frezzo also falling. Trying to escape, actually. You actually saw him die to... He didn't die to tower, but he tried to die to tower. He just didn't combat that 1.5 seconds too long.
And Frostiak, I mean, we saw the first blood. This was largely Team Dignitas' game all the way up until 16 minutes in, so about halfway through as the Titan falls at 29. Basically, what wound up happening, I mean, Frostiak got those 3 early kills, was looking good as a Bastet, and dual lane got ganked a lot by Fnatic. Dignitas adjusts, get the great counter gank. Looks very, very strong, right? But then what happens is Fnatic comes in, gets a 2-0. Gets a 2-0. Follows that up with a Gold Fury. Another 2-0. All of a sudden, all the momentum gone. Fnatic takes the game.
We saw that, right? It was like, we kept mentioning it's like 2 kills to 0, 2 kills to 0, 2 kills to 0. It was Fnatic. They weren't full on wiping, but they were killing 2 and they were getting the rest low. But yeah, I mean, it's Janus, it's Odin. It's people who have very high mobility, able to escape out of these fights. Captain Twig, though, player of the game. No surprise coming out from me, no surprise from you. I'm sure no surprise from the viewers at home either. He played a very...
important. Yeah, he played a very important role here. As I said, Thor really sort of the iconic jungler when it comes to wearing multiple hats. Your job is not a straight assassin. It's assassin sometimes, set up another.
This is the fight. I want to see it. It's at the end of this. So he's actually able to take out Shadow Nightmare, who's trying to escape. And this is just it. He sees all of Dignitas trying to run away, comes perfectly around the corner. Perfect setup. Hits the double tap on both players, picks himself up a triple kill.
I mean, and only one person was stunned out of that, which is the important part. Everybody always mentions and talks about, you know, the Thor wall. It's also a wall, but it's usually harder to pull off the actual obstruction than, say, a Ymir wall or an Odin ring. This time around, we actually get to see it executed perfectly. And Captain Twig, a huge part of why Fnatic is going to take this one to the bank, 1-up against their opponent, Team Dignitas. We do have another game coming in just a couple of seconds, but yeah. That one is exciting, and I'm sure all the Fnatic fans at home that were worried about the 1-3 win-loss record right now, feeling a little bit better about the strength of their jungler.